Her Majesty's Loyal Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, my question is for the Minister of Health, and it's great to be here in the Legislature today to ask about the People's Guarantee. And I want my first question to the government about our People's Guarantee to be about our commitment for the largest investment in mental health in Canadian provincial history. $1.9 billion, $1.9 billion worth of investment in mental health. And my question to the Minister of Health is, can we get a commitment that the Liberal government will match that commitment? Will the Liberals invest $1.9 billion into mental health and match our historic commitment?
Minister of Health, Long-Term Care.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we on this side of the legislature, I think all of us in the legislature agree that mental health has to be a top priority of any government in this province, in this country, around the world. We need to look at mental health with the same vigour and rigour that we do physical health, Mr. Speaker, two sides of the same coin. And I'm glad that the leader of the official opposition is repeating the phrase that I've used often, which there can be no health without mental health, Mr. Speaker. It's an issue which can't be seen from a partisan perspective, and that's why I'm so pleased that this government, since coming into office in 2003, has made unprecedented investments in mental health, has increased the funding, budget over budget over budget, to those areas, those specific areas where we know that we will get the greatest impact, improve access, focus on health equity, and make a difference in the lives of individuals across this province.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, again to the Minister of Health, and by that response, I guess the government is not willing to match that commitment, and it's unfortunate, Mr. Speaker. It's the dirty little secret in our healthcare system. In 1979, 11% of our healthcare budget was spent on mental health. Today, it's 6%. So despite all the rhetoric, all the talk of this great work the minister says the government's done, they have not got it done for the people of Ontario. And we need to make sure that mental health is treated as seriously as physical health. And it's not today. People are being abandoned. So I'll ask again, will the government match the $1.9 billion commitment that the Progressive Conservative Party made in the People's Guarantee?
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, just this year alone, we made 3 important investments in mental health on behalf of Ontarians. They were described in detail in the spring budget, the budget that member and his party voted against, Mr. Speaker. It included the first ever program in Canada for cognitive behavioral therapy, an investment which will result in thousands upon thousands of Ontarians. I think the estimate is about 100,000 Ontarians will have access to a form of treatment which is proven in terms of the benefits of its outcomes, well proven, specifically for individuals with mood disorders like anxiety and depression and other mental health challenges. And so that investment that was announced in the spring budget, we have are in the process of rolling that out, Mr. Speaker. It will make a difference in the lives of thousands upon thousands of Ontarians, and that's just one program that we're investing in.
Thank you. Final supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, again to the Minister of Health, and once again, the question about will they match the $1.9 billion commitment to invest in mental health, the Minister didn't answer. He seems to think that everything's fine in Ontario. You know, Mr. Speaker, if you break your leg, you go to the hospital, you're taken care of right away. If you have a mental health challenge, public counselling, you have to wait 18 months. If you break your leg, do they tell you come back in 18 months? There's families I have spoken to who are devastated because a young person has the challenge to come forward and they're abandoned right now in our healthcare system. So things aren't rosy. Things aren't great like the minister says. The stats speak for themselves. 11% of the health budget was spent on mental health in 1979. It's 6% today. So despite all the rhetoric, all the talk, they have dropped the ball. They have let down Ontario families that are pleading for help on mental health. So once again, for the third time, will the government match the $1.9 billion commitment made by the Progressive Conservative Party in the People's Guarantee?
Be seated, please. Be seated, please. Thank you. Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, so among the programs that we've invested in is almost $300 million for individuals that are experiencing and suffering from and challenged by the opioid crisis, the public health emergency that we're facing right now with opioid overdoses and deaths, Mr. Speaker. $300 million almost over the course of the next 3 years. The Conservative response to the opioid crisis, to ban pill presses. Yep. Mr. Speaker, we are making an investment in up to 10 youth wellness hubs across the province as well, Mr. Speaker. So wrap around funding all of the necessary supports that children and youth require for them to stay healthy and get healthy if they're facing mental illness or mental health challenges, Mr. Speaker.
Order.
So we're making these investments time and time again, and we're doing this on the basis of the expert advice that we're getting from our stakeholders, from advocates, from people with lived experience, Mr. Speaker.